Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Redneckanize, the home of the do-it-yourself trucker. When everything goes wrong, you gotta Redneckanize. What's going on, truckers? Now, thanks for watching. Hey, and if you don't mind, go ahead and give us a like and share this video. We really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out our channel grow, and we appreciate everything truckers are doing out there for us today. So I wanted to comment on a recent article that's been released. Looks like there's a House bill that has been introduced by a North Carolina representative to make it nationwide for anyone that obtains a license to carry a firearm in their state. They could carry in any state. And I wanted to talk about a few things like that and get my perspective on it and try to help people understand my point of view on it. So let's talk about things like that. But first, I want to send a shout out to our sponsor is DPF Regeneration. DPF Regeneration has stepped up big. They've helped out Redneckanize for years and years. We appreciate everything that they've done for truckers. They support truckers. They are a family-owned and operated business, and they really look out for the trucking industry, and they're always active on social media, helping out the truckers and the truckers' points of view, and sticking up for just pretty much everybody in America. We appreciate everything that they've been doing. So their business is helping out drivers, owner operators and fleets with their exhaust emissions problems. You know, we got those new technologies and everything, and it's one of those things where it's complicated, and we need services to keep the systems going, keep them clean, keep them serviced, things like that. And they've got just a big network and a good facilities to help out with that. So give them a shout and let them know that you're thinking about them. Let them know that you'd like to do some business with them if you need some stuff like that. Or if you don't have any, if you're just a company driver or don't have a system like that, just give them a shout out and let them know how much you appreciate them helping out Redneckanize, because we really do appreciate them. So their website is www.webacom.com, and then check them out. And we really appreciate it if you did. All right, so like I said, the federal government, the U.S. Congress is currently, I guess they've got it, it's introduced, it's probably in committee right now, and they're talking about it making it a like mandatory thing that as long as you maintain a license to carry in one state, that you're able to use that license and carry. Concealed carry is mostly what they're concerned about in any state, as long as you follow the laws there. Now, I'm going to say right now that I am not in support of this legislation. And it's all because I firmly believe that it's going to get challenged by New York or Illinois, and it'll probably win on the grounds of the 10th Amendment, which means that the states' have the rights. And to give you some scenarios on all this, everybody thinks that, well, it's just like having a driver's license. The problem is there's no federal law that requires states to accept driver's licenses or any kind of identification from other states. That's why they always require you that if you move to the new state, you have to obtain the new ID with your current address and everything in that state. You cannot have permanent state ID from another state and live in the different state, because they don't renew it. They make you get that state ID, and that's one of those things. They don't have to. They do as the courtesy, like now. And that's the other thing, is that if you have currently right now a license to carry in your home state, there are lots of states that will accept that license to carry as long as you're following the rules in that state. Some states don't, some states do. Those states, what they've done is they've contacted each other. The governments, the state governments, have said, okay, we'll accept yours, you'll accept ours, and these are the rules and all this stuff. And in fact, just recently, I live in the state of Texas, and a few years back, actually, the state of Minnesota no longer accepted the license to carry because of the fact of that they couldn't agree on the laws and what exactly can and cannot do. So it just fell off the list of states that were not accepting the Texas license to carry. And the list changes. That's why it's always good to stay up on stuff like that. There is a pretty cool app. I've used it, and when I go out of state, I often refer to it, and it's Legal Heat. It's Legal Heat, Heat. And it's a good, you just put your state, and it tells you all the states that are good to go. It tells you what states to avoid or that are no good. And also, if you pull up a state, it'll give you that state's license to carry, or any kind of Second Amendment issues that you may have going into that state. And as a truck driver, I always used it when I was carrying on out in the road there. And that leads me to my next point, is that I was duped. When I first started driving back in the 90s, I was asking, when I worked for one of the larger carriers, and I said, hey, are we able to carry in the trucks? Are we allowed to have firearms in the trucks? We went through all these classes and all these rules, the trucking school and the book. There's this big, we got this big FMCSA green book that we have to read and follow to the T and all that. And it doesn't really have anything in there. So we were asking, what does all that entail and everything? And so we kept being told. I mean, 2 or 3 people from the truck driving school and 4 or 5 people from the carrier, when I was in orientation, they were all like, the federal law does not allow trucks to carry firearms. And I'm like, okay. Didn't really go in and dig it for myself. Of course, back in the 90s, Google wasn't around and AOL sucked. So, what were you going to do, right? So we just took it as its word. And of course, we were told you can't carry. Working as a company driver, couldn't carry. And then back then, of course, you weren't meeting. You try to meet people and you try to strike up conversations, and nobody really knew for sure. So when the internet became more available and done some more research, what we found out, and of course, satellite radio came around, and you had trucking talk shows and all that stuff like that. So the word got around real quick, and it was always known that there is no federal law that does not allow or restricts the use or requires the use or anything. No federal law exists about truck drivers and firearms. Nothing. So it is totally up to the states. It is totally up to, again, the carriers. They are the ones that restrict the use of firearms or carrying of firearms in the trucks. If you are a company driver, the carrier makes the rules, right? Now, also, if you are an owner-operator leased to that carrier, you still have to follow that carrier's rules because it's their DOT number. Just because you're an owner-operator doesn't mean that whatever goes on in your truck is your business. They have the rules to set. They can tell you what you can and can't have in the truck. And again, it also, what other drivers have, what I've seen in the comments of social media is that drivers don't carry because of where and to the from they deliver. They go to military bases and they've, in their past, they have not been able to carry, and there's no way for them to store it at the guard shack and wait for the freight to get delivered and then get it back once they leave. There's no way for them to do that there, so they can't carry, or they don't carry, or they go to a lot of customers that have a strict policy about that stuff and they don't carry. And that's the decisions they make, and that's what we have to live with out here on the road, is that it's not the federal government that doesn't allow us to carry. It's the carriers, it's the shippers, and it's a lot of facilities that you deliver into or out of. And that dictates whether or not you can decide to carry or not carry. It's that those decisions are based on what you encounter. Now, what I've always seen, and again, we're going back to the legislation about you being allowed to carry. I live in the state of Texas, and I think that the Texas rules are pretty good because they treat everybody equally. They treat the businesses just like they treat the individuals, which means that if I owned a business and I did not want people to be able to carry firearms in my business, I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to put up a sign, and the sign, there's strict rules of how that sign has to, it's word for word. It's got to be in the front door, well observed, in large letters and everything. And of course, I put that sign up to tell them. And even now, there's a open carry law in Texas, and there's 2 different signs that I have to post if I don't want anybody carrying at all. Now, if I don't want anybody open carrying, then I put up one sign. If I don't want anybody concealed carrying, I put up another sign. Those signs is what tells me that I can and cannot carry in a business. Now, the only other businesses that don't have that sign is there's another sign they put up because they are a bar. And in the state of Texas, you're not allowed to carry inside a bar. And that bar details that if their sales are 51% or more of alcohol, then they are classified a bar, and they have to put up the 51% sign. And it has, it says state law 51%. And when I, as a licensed to carry gun owner, knows, because I had to take a class, which is also good. I don't think that a lot of times people get licenses or they carry and they're just not educated. And the cool part about having a class is you want to be educated. And that's most people that carry firearms, they want to be educated. They want to know the rules, and they want to know that if there are rules set, that there's a way for them to get to them, and they want to be responsible. And so what they do is they have a class. You learn about all this, and you learn where you're not allowed to carry and where you can carry, and then you know the signs. So a lot of restaurants, they don't put up the signs in the front door, but they put the sign up by their bar. So a lot of restaurants you're allowed to carry, but you can't carry to the bar area of the restaurant, or that their bar is so small that they don't have anything set up, or there's no bar. They serve alcohol, but they don't serve it that much, and then But also they'll put up the sign that says no open carry. There's a lot of restaurants and a lot of businesses in the state of Texas that they don't want open carry, but because conceal carry, of course, that's always been the more preferred in the state of Texas for a long time, and in most states it always is. Conceal carry is the most important thing. But the one thing that I want to make sure that I tell people all the time is the reason why I don't like, even though it probably will be struck down because of states' rights issues, the real reason is because if you allow the federal government to give the license to carry, the authority to carry in any other state, what's that going to do then? That's going to give precedent to the next government that comes in, the government that you may not agree with. They're going to come in and they're going to say, hey, listen, not only are we going to take away this rule that says you can't carry, that you can carry, we're going to take that rule away, and we're going to put up a rule that says the state or the states can say you can't carry at all. That's because we've all seen the fights that we're trying to get concealed carry in all the states, and we're winning, but this federal deal, that's not gonna it's not gonna help. We can already carry. There's no law that says that a trucker can't carry it in their truck, and there's no law that says we can't have get a license to carry and then travel all over the United States. You have to follow the laws, and all this law that they're trying to do is say, oh, all you gotta do is follow the law and you're okay. Well, there's a lot of states where we follow the law, and sometimes, like, I'll just say this: Illinois is one of the worst ones to be able to travel through if you have a firearm in your vehicle and you have a license to carry, because the state of Illinois, they don't give out a lot of carry permits. They don't even hardly give out any out-of-state permits. They're very strict on that. So what you have to do is just follow the law when you're traveling. You can travel with a firearm in your vehicle. According to Illinois, you have to have it unloaded and locked in a hard case. Then you have to have the ammunition in a completely separate section of the vehicle. So I obtained a hard case. It's always cool to have cases for your firearms. We love, not only do firearm owners love to have firearms, we love to have the stuff that goes along with it, like the cases and the attachments and all that. It's always cool. Never is a dull moment with firearm purchasing or ownership because of all the cool stuff you can have. So I got a hard case and I used it when necessary. I didn't alter my traveling because I was going into Illinois. It was only because if I was going to doing business in Illinois. And sometimes I just drove straight through. I stopped before I got to the state line, got what I needed, used the restroom, whatever, and then just drove straight through. I didn't stop. So if businesses were losing business because of me, I said, well, hey, don't blame me, blame your state laws. So, I went on straight through the state and didn't stop. But again, it's there's no federal law that restricts truck drivers from carrying out on the road. Carriers and shippers have a lot to do with that, about not being able to carry. And maybe we can approach that. Maybe we can go to these carriers and say, hey, I have the license to carry. I took the classes. Maybe if you had another class that you would like to offer up and maybe give your drivers a sense of being safe, you might be able to attract more drivers. It's all about recruiting, right? I mean, if I knew, we always say this, but if I knew more about the trucking industry and about the smaller carriers and how the big carriers were different, I wouldn't have went to work for a big carrier. I didn't know. I didn't come from a long line of truck drivers in a family. We didn't know that stuff. So truck drivers out there today, they come in and they just don't know that there's other opportunities out there. And I see it all the time that, you see these carriers, these real small carriers, they've got 10 or 15 trucks, and it's hard for them to hire drivers. But you understand is that there's a lot of drivers out there that are working for these bigger carriers that probably would want to go work for those smaller carriers. And you always gotta protect yourself. And I just want people to be able to do that, and always know the law. Don't trust just one person. Go do your research. Go to multiple websites. Go ask multiple questions. Go to multiple gun shops. I know a few gun stores that I've been to in the past where even the guys selling the guns, they have no idea. They knew how to run a federal background check, but that's it. That's all they knew, because that's all they had to know. So you got to be careful. Always want to be learning more. Always want to know more. And even now, I think I know a pretty good amount, and I didn't years ago. And now I think I still want to know more. I always want to know more. And even when this first came introduced, even when Trump was first running for office and he wanted to do that, he said he wanted to do it, and we were like, hey, maybe that's a good idea. And you do more research and like, well, no, let's hold off. I'd like my state to have its own rights, because again, with the state rights issue, you get it now, and then what'll happen is the government comes in that you don't agree with, and they've said, we're not going to take away your Second Amendment, but we're going to take away. You're no longer allowed to have a license to carry. You're no longer allowed to have that. Or you can have a license to carry, but it's very restrictive, and you have to send your application to the federal government. Ooh, wouldn't you like that? Wouldn't you like to be able to be in like Texas or Arizona or somewhere and have to ask the federal government's permission to carry a firearm? Ooh, that would be something, wouldn't it? Yeah. So just remember that it can come back on you. When debates are talked about, it's always like, well, what would happen in the other scenario? What would we want to happen the other way, or what we didn't want to happen the other way? Always think about that, because we know governments change, and the government's going to flip flop, and it's going to come down the pipe. I mean, I was doing some research on some people back in the day when the income tax was first getting introduced back in the turn of the century. And there was a lot of people out there that said, I don't really like being forced to have an income tax, but hey, just 5 or 10%, that's not that big. And then the poor people, they only got to pay a little bit, like 3%. That's not that bad. And then what happens? Boom, the rates go sky high. And it's like they didn't even think about it. They didn't even consider that could happen, and it did. So that's what we have to understand. We have to understand that kind of stuff. So always look at what would you think would happen the total reverse. So just everybody have the facts on that. We appreciate all you truckers out there doing a great thing. We hope to see everybody out there for the truck shows. I hope that none of them get canceled. That's a big deal. We're still trying to get opened up. Hopefully the freight rates will pick back up. Everybody stay safe out there and stay successful. And we hope to see y'all real soon. Have a great summer, and we'll see you out there on the road.